Okay, so we should be recording now. This is just going to be a review of the problem solution essay that's coming up for English 205. There's actually quite a lot of resources available to you, and I'm going to be going over a lot of them. This presentation was made by Professor Heather Burke. She is the main instructor for English 205, and I'm teaching one of the sections of 205 this term. Here is a quick outline of what I'm going to cover in this video. I'm just going to do an introduction to the problem solution essay. We're going to take a look at a sample. We're then going to look at the assignment 3-2 pre-writing planning, which is due this week, week 3. We're going to take a look at what the peer review process is going to be like, which is held in week 4. I'm going to show you around the Hondros library databases just a little bit to familiarize you with those if you haven't used them before. We're going to look at a timeline for when the project should be completed, and then people can ask questions at the end. And I'm going to adjust a setting here real quick. Okay. So these are the instructions for the problem solution essay. Hopefully these are not new to anyone. Hopefully people have seen these before. Basically, what this essay is doing, you are identifying a problem. It can be really about anything. Doesn't even need to be related to healthcare necessarily, although I imagine a lot of people will want to choose a healthcare topic. You're going to research that problem, you're going to learn all about it, and then you are going to be proposing a solution. Now, the structure of the essay needs to follow the Dewey sequence, which if you have read the materials for in our past couple of weeks of class, or if you watched any of the videos I've sent out, I've talked about the Dewey sequence. It's just a way to organize a problem solution essay. It provides a nice structure for you to follow. And I'm going to jump down here to number 2. This gives you a breakdown of the important elements of the Dewey sequence, at least for this essay. We are not following the Dewey sequence 100% exactly, but we are basing our essays on the Dewey sequence. So in your paper, you're going to be defining the problem and exploring its current state. You're going to be looking at the problem's history. You're going to look at the causes and effects of the problem. You're going to propose a solution for the problem and discuss how that solution is going to be implemented or put into place. And you're going to defend the proposed solution and address any potential objections. So that's the long and short of this paper. You need to have at least 4 sources. All of your sources need to be cited in APA style. The document also needs to be laid out in APA style. I did an APA review last week. We also have a lot of really good resources available through our library. This paper needs to be a minimum of 1,200 words. So it is a little bit on the longer side. And it's also the biggest paper that you will be writing in this class. It's worth the most points. This paper is worth 25% of your final grade. Because I think people are probably familiar with this assignment sheet, I'm going to go ahead and move on to some other things. But if at the end anyone has any questions about the assignment requirements, don't be afraid to speak up. This is the rubric I'm going to be using to grade the paper. It's always a good idea to look at the rubrics that your instructors are using, because that's going to give you important information about what you need to prioritize in your paper. So for example, if we look here at the APA format in basic requirements, that is only worth 10 points for this essay. So I would make sure to spend more time constructing a good argument, supporting yourself well, developing your ideas, and APA format is one of the probably the last things for you to be worried about in this paper, as it is only worth 10% of the overall grade for this project. Whereas if we look over here, we see where the bulk of the points are coming from. The thesis statement alone is worth 15 points. A thesis statement is probably only going to be one, maybe two sentences for this paper. So that one sentence is worth 15 points. So you're going to want to make sure that your thesis is really pretty solid. The focus of your papers are 20 points. The paragraphs and development are worth 25 points. Your use of support is worth 20 points. And then little things like grammar, spelling, punctuation, those are worth 10 points. So that's a breakdown of how I'm going to be scoring the paper. And in each of these boxes, you'll see a description of kind of how proficient you need to be in that category in order to receive the maximum number of points. So ideally you want to be aiming for outstanding in each of these categories. So, and I'm not going to read through all these for you, but your thesis statement, if you want an outstanding thesis, it should provide a strong and specific statement of the essay's focus and purpose. And if we jump down to good, it says it provides a clear statement of the essay's focus and purpose. And we go from there. The focus of the paper, you should offer a strong and thorough examination of the problem, including what it is, what has caused it, and what the effects are, as well as the solution, and so on. So be sure to read over this rubric, or at least skim it, get a good idea of the level of quality that you need to produce in order to get full points in each of the grading categories. Okay, now we're going to look at a sample of the problem solution essay. And I already have that pulled up on my computer. So let me find that real quick. Okay, there we go. Now this is a whole essay. I'm not gonna read all of this to you. This is available in our My Classroom website, so you're welcome to read it in depth there. And in fact, I think that would be a good idea. I think it's always good to have examples of the type of writing that you are doing, or the style that you are mimicking. But I am going to highlight some important features of this. So we begin with a hook / an attention grabber. So here we have like an interesting fact that is going to make the reader want to read more. You want to hook your reader. You want to make them care about your topic. So despite President Johnson's war on poverty over 50 years ago, the problem still persists throughout America today. His goal was simple: to not only relieve the symptoms of poverty, but to cure it, and above all, prevent it. Then we have the thesis statement for this paper. And typically, not always, but typically, you want your thesis statement to be the last sentence of your intro. And that is the case with this project. Your last sentence of your intro should be your thesis statement. So this person's thesis was, however, despite the daunting challenges that childhood poverty in rural America presents, it is an issue in need of national attention, and it can be drastically reduced through investment in both communities and individuals. And kind of the key for a good thesis statement in this project is you want your thesis to mention both the problem and the solution. So this thesis begins with the problem: daunting challenges that childhood poverty in rural America. And then we are told that it can be drastically reduced through investment in both communities and individuals. So we have our problem and our solution in one sentence. Moving on to the body of the paper. you'll see that this person is labeling the sections of their paper. That can be a good idea, both for you and for your reader. It's a good way to make sure that you are hitting all the things that you need to talk about in your paper. It also can help make your paper feel a little bit more organized. So in this first body paragraph, the writer is discussing the problem. They begin this paragraph with a topic sentence. A topic sentence is typically the first sentence of a paragraph, and it's going to tell your reader what the paragraph is about. So while America is considered a prosperous country where everyone's dreams can come true, childhood poverty in its rural region is a growing and concerning problem. So that tells me that this paragraph is going to focus on childhood poverty. So before I really even get into the meat of this paragraph, I already have an idea of what it's about. I'm not going to read the whole paragraph to you. I will point out, we notice here that this writer is quoting some. You're going to want to quote from your sources, at least a little, although it is recommended in academic writing to mostly paraphrase as opposed to quote. So it's okay to have a few quotes here and there, but primarily you do want to be paraphrasing your sources. This is an example of that. So the writer begins with a signal phrase telling us where the information is coming from. So this is from the source Save the Children. It was published in 2018. And then we get a statistic: 23.5% of children in rural America grow up in poverty, so on and so forth. You'll notice that this writer is also using in-text citations. So this quote here came from Save the Children, which was published in 2018. And this is actually a great example. So they are using information from the same source in two sentences back to back, and yet they cited it both times. That is correct. And in fact, they cited it again down here. To be safe, you really want to provide an in-text citation in every sentence that uses information from a source. If you don't use an in-text citation, what that's kind of telling your reader is that that is your information. You came up with those ideas yourself. You collected that data, which may not be the case. So anytime you use information from a source, be sure to include in-text citations. I'm going to scroll to the end of this paragraph. Each of your body paragraphs needs to end with a concluding sentence. So it's going to begin with a topic sentence and end with a concluding sentence. The concluding sentence is going to tie the paragraph up, and it's also potentially going to help transition into the next section. So while childhood poverty in America's rural areas is a troubling issue, it is one that the country has struggled with for a very long time. So notice there that they say a very long time, and they don't mention the word history, but that kind of gives me a hint that we're about to look at the history of this problem. And then if I look at the next section heading, oh, I was right, we are going to talk about history. So this concluding sentence brought a sense of closure to the body paragraph, and it also hinted to the reader what the next topic was going to be. And we continue that pattern from there. So this is the history section. They have a topic sentence. They have a concluding sentence. We move on to the causes. And they aren't highlighted here, but the paper follows that formula pretty reliably. We have a topic sentence. It ends with a concluding sentence, and so on. So our sections, we have problem, which is just, describing the problem in general. We have a history of the problem. We look at the causes. We look at the effects. We propose a solution. And then our last paragraph is a conclusion. If you follow that order of ideas, if you make sure to hit on all those things in your paper, you should be in a pretty good place. And then at the last page of their document, they have their references. Notice that the references are fully cited. It has all the bibliographic information that we need, and they are in correct APA style. Now, let me go back to our presentation here. Let's take a look now at the pre-writing and planning assignment. So this is due this week during week 3. And this is kind of an in-depth assignment. There's a lot that you're being asked to do here, and it's also worth a fair amount of points. In this document, you're going to need to make sure that you use the template. So there's a template that you need to write your answers on, and is provided within the assignment instructions. If you don't use that template, you will lose points. And then there are 3 major sections of this assignment. So you need to answer some pre-writing questions, you need to complete an outline of your essay, and you need to have a references page with a minimum of 4 sources. These are the questions for the brainstorming. So you want to make sure that you answer these before you really get started on, any other aspect of your paper. These questions are designed to get you generating ideas, give you things to talk about in your paper. You'll also notice that these questions hit on a lot of aspects of the Dewey sequence. So what are the causes of the problem? What are the effects of the problem? How long has the problem existed? How has it changed over time? Or in other words, what is its history? So by answering these questions, and you may need to do a little bit of research to answer these questions, so beginning with research would actually be a pretty good idea. But answering these questions should give you plenty of good things to talk about within your paper. These brainstorming questions are worth 30 points. The next section is the outline, which is worth the most, as worth 60 points. And I have an example of an outline here that we're gonna take a look at real quick. So you're gonna be typing out your outline directly on this document. For the introduction section, you're gonna write out your hook. Please note that you are not being asked to describe your hook, but rather to actually write it out. I have some students in the past who have issues with that. So actually write the hook for your paper here. That should be 1 to 3 sentences. Then you're going to write your thesis statement. You don't need to fill in the rest of the intro. You're not writing your whole intro now. You are just writing out parts of it. So next you should have your thesis statement. Notice that this thesis statement has been completely written out. This is exactly how this person is going to include their thesis statement in their paper. It is not a description of what the thesis is going to talk about. It's another way that you will lose points. Make sure that you're actually writing out your thesis. We then move into the body of the paper or the outline. Each of these sections is labeled body paragraph 1 and also tells you what that section of your essay needs to be about. And the nice thing about this, I know the inclination might be to think that like, oh, wow, like you're being asked to do all this like extra work in addition to writing the paper. But I can basically guarantee you that if you put a good amount of effort into this outline, writing your paper shouldn't be all that hard, because this outline gives you, more or less the exact order of your ideas. It shows you what you need to include in each section. So this really is designed to make writing the paper itself much, much easier. Body paragraph 1 here, we're defining and describing the problem. You'll need to write out a complete topic sentence. So what is the topic sentence of this paragraph in your paper actually going to be? Please write that out. Remember, the topic sentence needs to identify what the paragraph is going to focus on, or what is the point of the paragraph. From there, in the planned support section, it's fine just to do a bullet pointed list of the things that you're going to talk about. So here you do not need complete sentences. Notice that this person just, definition of rural, definition of poverty, poverty stats by region, demographics. So we don't have complete sentences here, and that's totally fine. Then you're going to write out your complete concluding sentence. So for each of your body paragraphs, you need, in the outline, you need a complete topic sentence. You need the support that you plan on talking about, and then a complete concluding sentence. And you're just going to repeat that for each section. So we have a section defining and describing the problem, a section analyzing the problem, specifically its history. Then we move into the causes of the problem, the effects of the problem. Then you're going to propose and evaluate a solution, and then talk about strategies to implement that solution. Then you will have your conclusion. Your conclusion for this outline, you don't need to write out the whole conclusion. Just write, a couple of sentences summarizing how you plan to end your paper. So that's how you should do your outline. And again, please write that directly on this document that is provided to you. That should help keep you more organized, and it also makes grading this assignment much easier, because everything is, clearly labeled, it has its own place in the document. Lastly, you're going to include references. You need to have a minimum of 4 sources. They need to be cited in APA style. Please note, though, that this is just possible sources. The sources that you list here, these are the sources you are planning on using in your paper. Those don't have to be final. They aren't set in stone. If you later decide that you need different sources or you want to add sources, whatever, that is totally fine. So that is the pre-writing and planning assignment. In week 4, we're going to do a peer review. And on the screen here, you're just seeing the instructions for the peer review. The important thing to note here, or one of the important things to note, is you are not sharing your pre-writing and planning assignment here. You're actually posting a complete rough draft of your essay. So by the time you make this post in week 4, you should have a rough draft of your paper completely done. And kind of the rationale behind that is, it's going to be hard for your peers to give you good feedback if your paper isn't finished. If there are big holes in your paper or, there are sections missing, you're just not going to get as good feedback as you might have. So the first thing for this form you're going to do is you're going to post your rough draft. You should also share any questions or concerns that you have about your essay. Oh, I see that there's a chat. Rita, could you clarify for me, what do you mean this week's assignment? We have several assignments. Do you mean the pre-writing and planning assignment? Sorry that I'm just now seeing that question. There's not a word count for the pre-writing and planning. It's more important that you just include all of the sections and, the places where it says write a complete sentence, make sure that you do that. But otherwise, there's no word count that you need to meet for the pre-writing and planning. So you'll be posting your rough draft, including any questions or concerns. Then you're going to choose 2 other students in your group. Try to find the people with the lowest number of replies, and then you're going to give them feedback on their draft. So you're going to read through their paper, and you're going to give them constructive criticism. You're going to point out areas where you think their paper could improve, and also, give them praise for when their paper is doing things well. And to help with that, we have some prompts that you'll be responding to. So for instance, does your peer provide adequate background and context for the subject that they are taking on? Before your peer's position is made known, do you know enough about the topic that that their stance is on? So on and so forth. So by answering these questions, you should be able to give your peer some pretty solid feedback on their paper. Yep, you're welcome, Rita. Here are just, another page of instructions for the peer review. These are pretty standard, so I'm not really going to spend much time on this. Notice that your initial post, that is your rough draft that needs to be posted by Thursday of week 4. And then the reply posts, which are due on Sunday, that is when you're going to be giving your peers the feedback. And the length requirement for the peer review is a little bit longer than normal. Normally, your reply posts just need to be 100 words, but because we're trying to give our peers in-depth, specific feedback on their writing, which could be very useful to them when revising and editing their paper, the reply post for this week needs to be at least 200 words for each peer. So each reply needs to be at least 200 words. Now I'm going to show you around our library's website a little bit, specifically where to find sources. Before I do that, I do want to point out, and this is actually new information to me. I found this useful myself. So in Google, we have a screenshot here. If you put a colon after what you're looking for, and then put either .edu, .gov, or .org, that will tell Google the type of website that you want to find. And these three types of websites tend to be fairly reliable. So education websites, government websites, and organization websites. I will say, as kind of a side note, just because a website has one of these types of domains doesn't necessarily mean it's 100% accurate or it's completely credible. But these types of websites tend to be better than like .net or .com sites. But anyways, in our example here, the person has searched rural childhood poverty site. So it's telling Google that your topic, rural childhood poverty, it's telling Google that we want a website, and we're specifically looking for .edu sites. So you may know this already, but .edu sites, there's going to be from, typically universities or colleges. .gov sites are going to be from the government. Those are probably going to include a lot of really good statistics, information gathered from the government. .org sites, those are, typically going to be organizations that, in this example, childhood poverty, it's probably going to be organizations dedicated to combating childhood poverty. But let me show you how to navigate our library's website. So here we have our My Classroom homepage, and we have a button here in the blue navigation bar labeled Library. I'm going to hit that. That'll take us to our library page. And then I'm going to go to Find Credible Sources over here on the left. And for this assignment, I'm interested in finding articles, so I'm going to click that button. And we have a lot of useful information here. Like down here, for instance, we have videos on popular versus scholarly sources. We have a tutorial on how to find peer-reviewed articles. We have a chart comparing different types of journal articles. We also have our librarian Beth's contact information. She's really helpful. She can help you out with, aspects of research and in writing. For instance, I know of people who have asked her for help with like grammar and stuff. So she's very nice, very helpful. Here, I'm going to choose a database that I want to search from. For now, I am most used to using Academic Search Complete, so I'm going to try that. But CIN, AHL, that's a good one. Medline. I've heard good things about PubMed, but really any of these databases should be solid for you. And I'm going to click choosing a database to search, and we're going to have a helpful kind of like breakdown here. So like if you're looking for a credible source, but you're not sure exactly what you need, you can do search all credible sources. If you're looking for an article on nursing, medical, or allied health-related topics, CINAHL or Medline are going to be your main ones. If you want an article from a nursing journal, Ovid or CINAHL are going to be good options. So here we have best databases and then more options and then some things to keep in mind. So really a helpful chart here that can help you zero in on the database that you should use. So I'm going to hit Academic Search Complete. And we have a nice, breakdown here of kind of how to navigate Academic Search Complete, some help citing the sources, how to like interpret the information that's going to be on your screen. And then up here towards the top, this is a link that's actually going to take you to the database. And I'm not going to, this is something I could spend a ton of time on, but I'm just going to kind of give you some quick tips. Like, let's say I'm interested in cancer. So what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to treat this like I would a Google search. So if I was searching in Google, I might say like information on cancer or, solutions to cancer. You don't really, when you're searching an academic database, you really only want to include words that are absolutely necessary. You don't want to bog down the search engine with a bunch of words that aren't actually related to your topic. So instead of searching like information on cancer, I'm just going to put in cancer. And then we'll see that this gave me more results than I could ever possibly look through. So we're getting over, I mean, close to 700,500 results. So what that tells me is I need to find more specific terms. And I can use titles of sources here for inspiration. So for instance, our first result says types of cancer. So like maybe that's something that I want to put in. If I want to learn more about the types of cancer, I would put that in and put it in quotes. And then all of my search results are going to include that phrase. So here we have types of cancer, types of cancer, types of cancer. Putting things in quotes tells the search engine that you want those words exactly. And that got me from 750,000 results to only about 7,000 results, which is still too many, but we did a good job of eliminating a bunch of our options. I'm going to go back to my previous page here. Maybe I want to focus more on patients, so I might use cancer patients. And what you can also do is, like, if you find an article that looks good, you can open it up and just take a look at some of like the terms that they're using. So caregivers, cancer patients, social support, some author supplied keywords, cancer, caregivers, education experience. So those are terms that you might combine together in your search. So maybe I would put in, if I was interested in the people who specifically provide care for cancer patients, in my search bar, I would put in cancer and caregivers, and that would help narrow down my results. Here you'll see, like, a lot of these sources have PDFs, which is great. I'll just go back to this source that I was using. We're given a lot of good information here. So these are all the authors. This is the journal that it was published in, Current Oncology, when it was published, tells us the type of article it is or the type of source it is. The abstract, that's basically a summary of the source. So if you read through this, it'll tell you what the source is going to be about. The DOI, that's kind of a permalink is what it's called. It gives you a permanent link to the source. So you can just copy this into Google and it will pull up this article, which makes relocating your sources later on a lot easier. Here we have links to like a PDF of it. If I hit PDF, that'll just take me to a copy of this article that I can download to my computer or, put in my Google Drive or what have you. We can also get some help with citations. This button over here, if I hit cite, it'll give me a bunch of options to cite the source in different styles. We are using APA. So this shows you more or less what your citation should look like. A lot of times these citation generators are not 100% accurate. So you still want to double check to make sure that it's right. But this will do most of the work for you. So I do recommend using this cite button here. Let me go back to my my result list. Another thing I can do, if I want to make sure that I'm just getting sources from academic journals, I can hit this button over here on the left, academic journals. And also, this has already been selected, full text, so I don't want articles that I'm not able to read. I want ones that have a full text available for me. I also, I don't want sources from 1935. That's way too old. So I'm going to drag this slider and make it a lot more recent. That's another good way to get rid of, bad results or, articles that aren't going to be as helpful. And I can also go down here to subject. If I hit subject and then show more, this is going to show me a lot of different like keywords that these sources talk about. So maybe I am interested in tumors affecting the central nervous system. I can click this. Or, maybe I am specifically interested in breast cancer. So I can hit this, breast tumor prevention. Once I've selected all the terms that I'm interested in, I'm going to hit update. And it's just going to show me articles with that subject. So that's another great way to both limit your search results and also get a feeling for what kind of sources are out there. Like, what do you have to work with? And I think I'll end my explanation of the databases there. That gives you a pretty solid idea of how to do database research. And all those tips that I just walked you through. So I was using Academic Search Complete, but you can basically use all those tips that I just gave you with really any database. Most databases are kind of set up in the same way. They function the same. If you do find that you need additional help searching databases for sources, just let me know. I'm happy to schedule like a Zoom session with you to help you out. And Beth, our librarian, she would also be, I'm sure, happy to help you conduct research. So let's go back to our presentation here. Here is kind of a timeline for you for this project. There's a lot of different aspects to this project. So this is designed to help you kind of stay on top of things. So the pre-writing planning is due Thursday of this week. I'm going to try my best to get you feedback on your pre-writing and planning by Sunday. During week 4, you need to post your peer review to the discussion board by Thursday. That's July 27th. The actual peer review, the reply posts, are due on Sunday, the 30th. And then Wednesday of week 5, which is August 2nd, that is the last day that you can request feedback from me. Heather and I both use the same cutoff date. It's the Wednesday before the paper is due. That way, if a bunch of people are asking us for feedback, we have time to give it. And, we want to make sure that our feedback is thoughtful and helpful. So there has to be a cutoff date for that. Otherwise, some people just wouldn't get feedback if they asked for it, or, some people's feedback would be more in depth than others. So if you do want help with your paper, make sure that you ask by Wednesday of week 5. That should be August 2nd. The final copy of your paper is due Sunday of week 5. That's August 6th. And then again, I will try my best to grade those by Thursday, August 10th. That, kind of just depends on how much other work I need to do. But I will try my best to get you feedback on the pre-writing and planning by Sunday of week 3, and then get your essays graded by Thursday of that would be week 6. And here's also a kind of another breakdown of that. So pre-writing and planning, you should begin no later than today, hopefully. You're going to be submitting that by Thursday of this week. That should take you 4 to 6 hours. The rough draft, we recommend that you begin no later than Monday, July 24th. You're going to want to submit your rough draft by Thursday, July 27th. You're going to begin your peer review no later than Friday, July 28th. And then those peer review replies are due Sunday, July 30th. This will probably take you 10 to 12 plus hours. Once you get feedback from your peers, you're going to want to revise your paper. It would be a good idea to send me your paper so that I can give you some feedback on it. So that's going to be from July 27th to August 1st. Your final copy, you should submit this no later than Saturday, August 8th, so that you have time to review the Turnitin report and check for plagiarism. And that is our review of the problem solution essay. Keep in mind that this project is worth 25% of your final course grade, so it's very important. I can help you with your paper up until Wednesday, August 2nd. I'm happy to schedule a Zoom meeting with you. You can email me questions. If you want to set up a time to do a phone call, just let me know. I would be happy to help you out. If you have any questions or concerns, just feel free to email me. And we'll make sure that you do well on this paper.